All right, we've solved absolute value equations and inequalities. Now let's talk about what the graph of an absolute value function looks like. The parent function for all absolute value graphs is y equals the absolute value of x. That's the simplest thing that we can have that involves an absolute value and an x. From there, we can put other numbers around on the right side to move the graph around, just like we did with parabolas. And that, to me, is what's so cool about graphing functions, is that they all work basically the same way. So I've got a table of values here, and I added a middle column for us to show what's happening when we plug in, because I thought that might be a better way to show work, and I had the room. So if I'm trying to figure out what the absolute value of x looks like, then, and I don't know, then I need to use a table of values. So we need to pick numbers, and numbers close to 0 are a great idea. I would actually, if I really didn't know what this was and was choosing to graph it, I would start with 0 and do absolute value of 0. Now, how far away is 0 from 0? It's 0. Or if you make 0 positive, well, 0 is not really positive or negative already. So our first point is 0, 0, because I'm going to ignore the middle column to get my point 0, 0. What about whenever I do 1? The absolute value of 1, make 1 positive, it's already positive, so that's 1, 1, 1. Let's do 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2, so we've got 2, 2. Now, what is this looking like? This is looking like a line, which we've already done. And if you think about it, maybe that makes sense. But when we start looking at our negative numbers, and we say absolute value of -1 is positive 1, so -1, but up 1 instead of down 1, we end up basically with, well, I mean, it's going to look like a V. It actually is going to look like this right here. This is me attempting to color it in. That was terrible. Undo, undo. But another way of thinking of it is like we had a straight line and we just kind of broke it in the middle and made the part that would have been negative, we made it go up instead. So this is what y equals the absolute value of x looks like. This is the parent graph. This is what we can move around. And the way we do that is going to work like what we did with parabolas. In fact, it's actually called vertex form. There's not a standard form equivalent or like thing for absolute value, because we can't get rid of the absolute value when we're trying to graph it. We don't have enough I mean, I guess unless we wanted to, I guess we could, we just don't, that's just not a thing we do. Because getting rid of it means we'd need 2 different equations, and we don't like doing that as mathematicians, unless we have to. So just like with parabolas, this h inside is going to tell us the shift left or right, and it's inside our absolute value, and since it's inside, it's part of the super secret opposite society. So that's like, remember, that's like if we have x plus 2, h is actually going to be -2. K on the outside is just like the k on a parabola. It's going to be the shift up or down, and it's not inside. So it's, you know, positive is up, negative is down. I have 3 lines here for A, and I did think this through as far as what I was going to put, but I'm actually not sure how well 3 lines are going to go. What I wanted to basically get across is that if A is negative, then that's going to make it open down instead of up, so makes it reflect. That's not not what I wanted. I'm not even going to try to pronounce reflect with an extra T. Reflect over x-axis. And then if it's a number between 0 and 1, it's a vertical shrink. And this also should really include like negatives. If it's basically, this is if it's a fraction that is less than 1. And then if it's a whole number, so either it's greater than 1 or less than -1, it's a vertical stretch. I know. So one thing we could do is get on something like Desmos and, you know, start off with this parent function and then just start adding numbers where a, h, and k are and see what happens to the graph. That's a great way to explore this and see what happens. But that is the basic idea of graphing absolute value.